Hello, YouTube. Welcome. I believe this is episode 23. I could be wrong. 23 of Behind the Screen. You'll notice an immediate visual upgrade. I realized after 22 weeks of doing this, which in hindsight is far longer than it should have taken, I could just capture my Google Drive window. So for context, for those who don't know, the way that Microsoft Office displays anything, it bypasses all of the video inputs that Streamlabs and OBS and OBS and other encoders pick up. So it doesn't display properly if it displays anything at all. So I have been using Notepad, but I realized that one, it's useful to have a backup of my files anyway. Just it's good practice. Two, Google Drive is a good way of disseminating these files for people to use in their own games. Three, Google Drive has proper formatting options. Also, as a fourth benefit, I can have multiple tabs open and you can see the multiple tabs, which is great. But it means I can do things like proper titles and whatnot, and I don't get confused. Just going to pause the preview. Last week, actually we'll stick with the original order. There's no recap this week. We didn't play D&D last week. We were supposed to play a one-shot, but the DM was ill, so we decided to cancel. But the week before that, the players started a boss fight, and you can see in the recap on screen, accessed the vault, began their confrontation with Javik Trentum. Javik Trentum is the boss. He is a human noble that they've been tracking for the past 2 years real life, 2 months in game, and they've finally pinned him down and confronted him to solve that plot line. Got halfway through the boss fight. It's the first time we've had a multi-session combat, so we're getting to that point in D&D where just health values take so much time to get rid of. And we ended the fight, or we ended the session, I should say, with Javik Trentum calling in an oath, a promise, a vow, what have you, from a green hag to use her power. This was a manifestation of his Conjure Fey ability. And the green hag appeared, and then we ended. The boss fight from now onwards should go a bit swifter, purely because the Javik had 2 Beasts of Ill Omen, a monster a day from Reddit creation, I believe it is, that have an aura of unluck, giving them disadvantage on everything. So they've got rid of one of them, and the other one I'm fairly sure is nearly dead. So once those disadvantages are cancelled out, it should be, plain sailing for the players from there on. To combat this, I have bent the rules slightly. The hag is going to count Javik Trentum himself as part of her coven, and therefore have access to the coven spells, as per Monster Manual rules. And so that should make the fight more interesting than just swarm the 2 individuals and beat them to the ground until they stop breathing. I realised that I don't actually have the Dungeon Master's Guide, which might be useful. So if you just give me 1 second. Man, it's really useful having the display role-playing cabinet behind you. Because obviously I've been using tables from that to do some stuff. And then, so that was the recap. And then last week, I went through building a Archfey to function as the big bad end boss. Gender neutral, BBEB, not BBEG, whom the players may fight this session. Obviously, because he is the big bad end boss, it's going to go poorly for them. But I'm really hoping they do, because I just want to demonstrate how much of a threat he can be. I didn't take very well. It took about half an hour or so, I think. And then after that, I returned to world building for Yngun, which, as anyone who's been here a decent amount of time will know, is my default kind of. I can't think what to stream, so we'll just do a workshop to build a world together. And this is my plan going forward. And once we finish Yngun, we'll build another world, maybe in a different genre. So it might not be a world, it might be a galactic empire, it might be a town of supernatural threats. I'll leave it up to chat to decide if, it becomes relevant. But I randomly generated the fact that there are 4 civilizations since this planet of Yngun began, 3 of whom believed in the pantheon that we've created already on stream, the Ynguni, and 1 of whom rejected them. And then I generated how that civilization ended, what kind of technological level it reached, with the current civilization being kind of late industrial era, so Victorian England. So if you want to set games in that time, I'd probably look at Ravnica and Eberron style things for steampunk and Magitech. And also started thinking about kind of the nature of those civilizations and what they did and how that contributed to the civilizations that came after. So you'll see on the screen, Civilization 1, the architects, they worship Yngun, who is that dancing light, a deity that believes in doing the right thing no matter what the consequence. So they tried to create a utopian meritocratic society that for the benefit for everyone, and laid the foundation of many cities and roads, much like the Romans did in the real world, certainly for Britain and Europe. But their civilization ended when a ritual they were conducting went awry, and they summoned demons from the abyss, or they summoned demons in D&D terms from the abyss, which resulted in the loss of the entire civilization. The second civilization, the Holy, because of the loss of the architects to demons, the Holy took a more theocratic, orthodox, conservative society, very anti-demons, devils, things like that, fiends. But one of those sects gained so much power in its rejection of material goods and promotion of asceticism, things like that, that all of that spiritual energy of the worshippers, followers of that sect, functioned as a sacrifice, which created a famine and drought, which killed more people, which worked as a blood sacrifice, and opened a gate to the plane of Acheron, plane of unending war, in the capital city where the head temple of Asis was, which all of the inhabitants of Acheron poured out through, and their war spilled over, and they killed, probably, we'll go with 95% of that civilization. The next civilization, seeing the mistakes of those that came before and their worship of the Ynguni, rejected the Ynguni, and because they were primarily what was left of the Holy, turned to worship of the gods of those who came through the gate. And because it is a plane of war, this was a warlike civilization driven to conquer and expand and rule all. And I see this very much as this whole thing is taking place on probably a global scale. So we're talking global empires at this point. No, maybe not. Maybe continental. We'll stick with continental for now because that's smaller and a lot easier to manage. So they conquered probably the entire continent anyway. Brought them all under the fold of the gods of the races from Acheron, and but didn't manage to fully stamp out the worship of the Ynguni. So, and again, Idione, the dancing light, a god who teaches doing what is right no matter the consequences. Followers of Idione and Zidros, the Warbringer. make sure I'm getting that right. Yep, the Deathbringer, god of war, assassinated the Iron Emperor, the head of the Warbringer civilization, and brought that crashing down in a huge power vacuum, leading us to the current era, Civilization 4, which I didn't name. I'm open to names. Which is a society focused on balancing all of the disparate cults of the Yngun, and preserving life, and more of a parliamentary democratic republic with devolved governments like it currently is in Britain, with the Welsh Assembly and Holyrood and Scottish Parliament, whatever that's called. I can't remember, because that's what I know primarily, but it also makes sense in this kind of status quo focused era civilization. So that's where we're up to today. That's where we're up to, comma. Today I was thinking of taking that same approach of randomly generating natural disasters and catastrophes and things like that, but for one civilization, and to flesh that out a little bit. And it seems to make sense to me to just start at the architects and work down. So that's what we're going to do. So the first thing I need to do is make these proper titles. I use the color scheme from the books for the most part. So bold, underlined, and like a burgundy. To denote major titles. And then you'll notice, if you saw it while I clicked briefly over to the precursor to the Yngun. Why do I have this document open twice? Weird. You'll notice here I've got these functioning as titles and then just bolding as subtitles for now. I might change that, I might not. Civilization 4 has no name, so the hyphen remains until it has a name. Okay, and then I can, if I do this, and then italicize these notes, just so that I have a theme of the civilization to work with, we have a theme of the civilization to work with, and then just go into more detail. Further on. So there we go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my dice, and I'm going to just roll the dice to determine the length of time which the civilization lasted. I'll do that for all 4 civilizations, and then, as I say, go back to the architects and start working through events and things for that. So the architects reached a medieval period. So what I could do is roll 3d10. That'll give us a number between 1 century and 30 centuries. Obviously, if it's maybe 2d10, 1 and 20. D10 and D6. D10 and D8. Let's do that. Let's see what number I get anyway. So that gives me 15 centuries. So we've got 0 to 1500. And then if I roll 2d10, so we've actually got proper years, so that's 1530. I've got to be real careful not to use the numpad. And then Civilization 2, that got to early industrial. So it lasted a bit longer, so I'll roll the d4s, and I'm envisaging all of these things as essentially restarting civilization apart from oral tradition, because that's how I like to work in grand mythic scopes. So I've added a d4 to this to represent the fact they got to a later period of time. We still only got to 1100. So we've got 1530 to it would be 1630. No, that's not how maths work. 2630. There we go. With such grand timescales as this, obviously there are questions to be raised about what happened to technology and culture and stuff, and we can always fiddle with these dates. 66, so 96. Third civilization reached medieval, so we'll just go back to the D10 and the D8. OFI. 1,166 years. Obviously, that's 1,530 years. And then we've got 1,600 years. I can't be bothered to work out the maths. It'll take, it won't take too long, but the calculator will do it instantaneously. So 2696 plus 1,600. 4296. 26, 96. 96 to, was it 4296? Yeah. 4296. And then add another 30 to that, so 4326. So that was 1,630 years. Which incidentally, it seems like a good way of generating current campaign year if you want anything like that. And then we're back in industrial era, so we'll stick with a D4. If I had 4D10, I could just roll all of them together for this. That makes more sense. I don't know why I wasn't doing that before. So we've got 2,027 years. I am not smart. And again, I'm just going to add this. So 4326 plus, nope. Clear. Abort. 4326 plus 2027 3627. Wait, what? That's not. Why is it adding 1600 all the time? Stop adding 1600. I see. I may have figured out why it's adding 1600. 6353, there we go. 4, 3, 2, 6, 2, 6353. So obviously there are certain questions to be answered during our description of... oh wait, no, I don't need a date for this because it's the current date. So what we could do is 4326 hyphen and then line current date 6353. Something to consider during this is why it takes these societies so long to reach certain thresholds. So obviously we reached the industrial era in 1800 years-ish, 1750-ish. Bit before actually, 1600s. Far less than 2,000 years. And that's even, obviously we didn't suffer complete cultural destruction because of military expansion and assassination and power vacuums and demonic rifts and whatnot, but it still didn't take us that long to get to the stage that these worlds are at. And obviously Civilization 2 reached an industrial era in 1100 years. So we've got things like that to consider. But for now, as I said, we're going to generate some events, and I needed to know how long these civilizations have been going, because I was just going to take however many centuries they've been going, and divide that by 4 to determine how many kind of major civilization shaking events there have been, and then roll that number of times on an appropriate table. So with the architects, that's 3 events, because it's not at 1600 years. So we've got 3 events. Civilization 2 will be 2 events because it's not at 1200 years. Civilization 3 would be at 4 events. And then Civilization 4 will be at 5. But if you are planning to use this world in, say, your own game, one of these 5 events could easily be the events of the campaign. So don't feel like you have to create that many. Stick to all these events. If there's one you don't like, just remove it and put your own campaign. Just shove it in there. Sorry, when I'm anxious and not, irrationally angry, I get very animated, and my sense of drama runs away with me. We'll put it that way. Which is great for a GM. If you are GMing your own game, or if you're just playing, embrace the melodrama. Seriously, just do it. I'm a drama queen. I admit that. And I have the perfect platform to indulge in that as a GM. But as a player, obviously you want to balance that with being polite and understanding that there are other people at the table. Now, where was that really handy-dandy chart? World-shaking events. There we go. So I need to roll 3 times. What page is that on? Do I need that page? I do. I don't need this currently. So we've got a 9. So prediction, omen, prophecy. Prediction, omen, or prophecy, and then that one. Shift, not control, you fool. Event number 2. I'm going to re-roll that. I got the same result twice. Discovery, expansion, or invention. Discovery, expansion, or invention. And then event number 3. Cataclysmic disaster. Now, I must remind you, this is not including the event that ends the civilization. So that's that. I might generate all the events actually in one go, so I don't have to keep referencing the book in later streams. Sorry, taking a lot of air when I'm talking so quickly. And yes, I talk quickly as a matter of course, but the anxiety does not help in any way. Could just roll 3d10. Oh, 2d10. There we go. So we've got assault or invasion and new organization. That's not how you spell that. Assault or invasion. And then line. I have no idea what the actual word for that symbol is. It's just a vertical line to me, so I call it line. And I'm a big fan of it for separating items on lists like this. And then this is 4 events, so I just roll all 4d10 together. I have a dice box with 2 sets of dice in it, pretty much permanently set up next to my workstation, apart from d6, which I have 6 of instead of 2. I play a multi-class rogue with 5 levels in rogue, so I need the 3d6 for sneak attack damage and then 6 on a crit. Anyway, we've got a 2, a 6, a 5, and a 9. Fall of a leader or era. I'll leave it here / era. Line. Extinction or depletion. Ooh. Extinction or depletion. And if you are, say, watching this on YouTube or you're watching this as a VOD, and you find somewhere with an equally useful table, please do get in touch via Twitter, where it's Comrade Bubbles, YouTube comments description, obviously, that's what the comments is for. Or pop by the next time I'm streaming and let me know. I would appreciate it greatly, because I'm currently just using the tables in the DMG. Obviously, something I could do, if Twitch is still around, if the EU votes to pass this copyright directive, but Twitch remains a viable a platform, I could on these streams just make my own role-playing game and build resources for that with the help of chat and the community. Don't know how well that would do, but it's an idea, I guess, because I'd have the copyright to everything then. Okay, and then 5 events, so roll the 4 again. And I'm going to keep all of these events in the order which I rolled the dice and displayed the dice so I could make the list. The DMG also does have... Right, I need to actually get a proper bookmark for this. Perfect. So I live in a city with a real good rail network. Sorry, I have a camera cover that I hang off the top of my laptop screen. So I always have a rail ticket in my wallet, usually in my my phone. Sorry, because I have a wallet case in my phone. And they make really, really good bookmarks, especially for role-playing books, which are obviously A4 size. Anyway, so we've got 1614. Rise of a leader / era. Nope. Line. Extinction or depletion. And to make it even more random, I'm going to roll on the relevant tables in the relevant sections in this book. So that when I do this again, obviously we get completely different results. That's Rise of a Leader again. Four is Assault or Invasion. So after I've got these primary events done, I'll return to the architect and we'll start working through the minutiae of those. And I need a 5th event. That's another omen. Okay. Although, to be fair, if you are using this as your campaign world, then a prediction, omen, or prophecy could be a pretty good campaign hook. So there we go. So, is there a relevant section on predictions, omens, or prophecies? There is not. So I can't break that down further. That's entirely on me. Discovery and expansion. This is a D10 table, so it is a discovery, expansion, or invention of a plant. So I guess we can think about what kind of plant. Maybe a psychotropic one that links collective consciousness, which they use in the ritual. I guess we'll figure that out. That was just an idea off the top of my head. Now I say it out loud, it's a pretty cool idea. And a cataclysmic disaster, which obviously has its own table to roll on. 2, famine, drought. Actually, while I'm here, I'm going to lay the groundwork for future streams by doing all of these. So, assault or invasion, that has a list of forces. I believe I saw one. Invading forces, here we go. Oh, wrong die, D8. 2. Monsters or a unique monster. Monsters / unique monster. And let's see if there's any kind of brain fodder for new organization. There is. Nope. Wrong die type. 8. Religion, sect, denomination. Ooh. So this could be like not related to the Yngun in any way. Religious sect / denomination. Sorry, just gonna stretch. Okay, I'm good. Fall of a Lyra or Ida. Spoonerism for you right there. What is the leader type? 5. Art and culture, so yeah. It's like a prominent art / cultural figure head. Art / cultural relevance. We've got extinction or depletion again. I believe doesn't have a table, but I could be wrong. It does. It does. I was wrong, as happens quite often. So something is made extinct. A waterway is depleted. A waterway / body of water. And obviously the idea is that things that happen in later civilizations will have callbacks to things that happened in previous ones. So like the art and cultural thing, it could be that there was a subversive artistic movement that promoted the utopian society of the architects, but touched on something and was destroyed. It's not a strong idea, but it tries. I guess it kind of explains roughly what I was going for. There is also tables for forms of government, but I think we're okay for that on that right now. Rebellion, revolution, or overthrow. Yeah, there's no table for that. I didn't think there would be. And prediction, omen, and prophecy, we know that there's no table for. So, rise of a leader / era. Military. Okay. Extinction or depletion obviously has a table. It's a D8 table. die. Let's reroll that. That's an 8 again. That's a third 8 in a row. I think I'm going to accept the result of the die, and that's another waterway. Waterway slash body of water. Maybe it's the same one. Maybe whatever precautions they put in place fail for whatever reason. Oh, that was the wrong die for leader type, wasn't it? Oh no, 6. Philosophy, learning, magic. Well, magic would make sense, as Notrix is god of magic. But again, it's not set in stone. I don't want to make anything canon at this point. These are purely just to give ideas and inspiration for fleshing these things out. And what the hell picture is that? Okay. If you can also, if you think of any other events that might occur, please do pipe up with them. These are just the major events that occur during the life cycle of the civilization. So that was a secret society. There we go. Right, so I guess first question to decide is whether or not the prediction, omen, or prophecy relates to the discovery of the plant. Probably shouldn't have seen that information, but there we go. I can think of 2 ways to do it. I just decide off the cuff, or I can roll a die. Either works, really. And now we've got these. Let us do this. Just tidy it up a little bit, because always keep your notes easily understood. That way, if someone who isn't you and doesn't know what is going on sees them, they should be able to figure out what's going on. So say you're sharing GMing duties with someone, and you want to share some major world events that may have historical significance to the campaign, for example, and they've not played the campaign so far, or they don't have an accurate picture of the campaign world as it stands, then you can just show them your notes and they'll be like, ah, yes, this is what this means. So I should probably rename this the precursors major events. So I don't need any of this apart from that last one. My goal is, after going through all of these events, is to convey kind of the idea about the technological standing of the civilization at the time of its destruction or at the present moment, and also to elucidate, elaborate, whatever, on the italicized notes that function as kind of a general overview of that civilization. Today's, and obviously going forwards, streams will be about the events themselves first, and then try and work all that to a narrative of that civilization. Yeah, I'm going to roll. I'm going to organize my dice again. Sorry, It bothers me if they're not in the right order. I know they are based on size and stuff, but I like having them in order. So I'm going to roll a d6, and if it's like 1, 2, or 3, the prediction is not related to the plant. For 4, 5, 6 it is. So 1, it is not related to the plant in any way. So, well, initial thought, roll a d4, and that tells you what time period, which civilization it's related to. 2, so it's related to the Holy. In some way. I should probably also do this for the prediction for 3 and 4. So the prediction, omen, prophecy from Civilization 3. On a 1, 2, or 3, it relates to Civilization 3. On a 4, 5, or 6, it relates to Civilization 4. So roll a 4, so it relates to current civilization. And then, obviously, the prediction, omen, prophecy from Civilization 4 will either... Actually, to be fair, we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4 for Civilization 4, 5, 6 for a future civilization. 5, so it relates to a future civilization or a future event. No, civilization, because that conveys a sense of timescale more than anything, I guess. I'm keeping an eye on the time. Probably aim for another half hour or so. Maybe take it to an hour and a half stream, which would be 40 minutes, which should give me enough time to get this uploaded to YouTube before I go out later. So, a prediction, omen, or prophecy related to the Holy Civilization. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to roll a d4. On a 1, the prophecy, the prediction, omen, or prophecy relates to something in general about that civilization. I just closed chat like an idiot. On a 2, it relates to the assault or invasion of that civilization. On a 3, to the organization that grew during that civilization. And on a 4, it relates to how that civilization ended. A 1. So something in general about the civilization. Okay, so this is a society that promotes social cohesion, the social state, harmony with each other. I mean, it still has an empire, so clearly there's some aspect of imperialism to it, but could just be more along the lines of, if anyone plays Warhammer 40,000, the Tau's greater good. Very much sci-fi communism. So perhaps this prediction, omen, or prophecy, they don't know at the time, is related to the Holy. Don't know at the time, but is related to the theocratic society, the extremist bent of religion that grows up during those 1166 years. Related to the Holy Civilization. I just put predicts rise of religious extremism in society as a whole. There we go. And as usual, I'm probably going to go through and make notes on these events first, and then kind of try and work out a narrative or clarify them further. So I'll do these 3 events and then start again and work out if it's a prediction, an omen, or a prophecy, and what form that would take. So that's that. So we've got discovery, expansion, or invention. So it's going to be discovery of a plant. Again, I do like the idea of a drug. Sorry, I do like the idea of a drug. Please don't arrest me. I like the idea of them discovering a plant that helps with the goals of unity and unification. I will admit I'm probably influenced somewhat by the game Unity, which is a sort of fantasy post-apocalyptic fantasy game, in that the apocalypse happened in the fantasy world, where one of the races used to be psychically connected to everyone, but no longer is, and there's a drug that they can take that kind of gives them that feeling of belonging and collective consciousness. So, but it also seems to fit in the narrative we've got for the architects from last stream, where they believed entirely in bettering the social state for the betterment of oneself. And we're obviously trying to link all consciousness to Notrix so that she could regain her lost knowledge. Drug of some kind. Starting off strong. Drug of some kind to link consciousnesses. Possibly used as part of we'll put final ritual in capitals so that we know how important it is. The final ritual of the civilization. And hopefully next week or whenever I come back to this, I will remember that this links to the... God, I hate it when the post comes through and makes me jump. Links back to the ritual that goes awry and summons all the demons and whatnot. So that's that. And then cataclysmic disaster of famine or drought. Obviously one, famine, usually follows the other, drought, because food can't grow with no water. Right, I think the first question is, what part of the civilization does this affect? Does it affect the capital? Does it affect border states? Does it affect what's the phrase? Is it breadbasket? I think that's the usual phrase for kind of like agricultural centers that grow the cereals and other vital crops. Although a society such as this, so it reaches a medieval... Hi, Celtic. It reaches a medieval technological state. So travel by water would probably be a thing, especially for large, heavy loads over long distances. So if there's a drought, possibly although that then it would be depletion. Maybe not. Maybe this is more of just a like people starve or dehydrate to death situation rather than lack of ability to travel, convey food over long distances. Yeah, that would definitely be more depletion of the waterway. So people just tuning in, trying to flesh out some major world events in the world I've been building on stream, focusing on how a cataclysmic disaster of a famine or a drought would manifest in Civilization 1 towards the end of their 1530 year period. We've got an upper limit of medieval technology, if you can figure that into anything. So probably wouldn't be related to irrigation so much as No, it would have, because there would be no irrigation, it would have to be either related to a water source drying up or the famine side of things where the crops are ill for whatever reason. It's a tricky one because I don't want to tread on the toes of the ones below where the actual event is a waterway being depleted or disappearing for whatever reason. See if the book has any suggestion, although I highly doubt it has beyond what we've already thought of. Gods, which we've already done. Forms of government, which never really came up. Decide what caused the cataclysm, where it originated, an omen. Describe it or name the creature that warned the populace. Who were lucky. Describe what the area looks like after the disaster. Okay, so what causes this drought or famine? That didn't really help in any way. So if we want famine without drought, then that leads more to crops catching a disease of some kind. Thinking of, unfortunately, like the first one that comes to mind is the potato famine of the 1840s, which is horrible and another classic example of why British imperialism was the worst, and continues to have repercussions to this very day. So we have a society that believes in the greater good and in doing the right thing, which to them is bettering the lives of the less fortunate by incorporating them into this meritocratic utopian state. So obviously they're going to make allies. There's going to be recidivists and people who disagree with them. Medieval tech, so obviously farming practices aren't going to be that advanced, but there's also a fantasy world, so magic's going to exist. So it could be just some sort of spell that quote-unquote curses certain types of crops. But then you've got the question of who did it, what crop, why, did they do anything else? I suppose that's questions. That's 4 questions. There's not one. Questions of those things. I guess I could randomly determine. Okay, no, that's fine. Structure of society and how it provides food. Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately it did. If it helps any, like, if we do leave the European Union, we don't make much food in England anymore. In fact, the biggest thing to be proud of, according to YouTube adverts, is Carling is produced in the UK based on UK wheat and hops. So there's that, I guess. Okay, so taking that to following that train of thought, real world example, Indus. I'm just trying to use randomly generated prompts from the Dungeon Master's Guide, from chat, from wherever on the internet, to just create a history to this world, split over 4 main eras. But I would definitely look at the Bronze Age collapse afterwards, because I find things like that interesting. But the real world example, Indus Valley Civilization, they, or it, what was it? Kind of, it perfected the civilization. They perfected techniques for cultivating crops, so that they had more spare time, which gave rise to art, culture, religion, Vedic scriptures. So if we have this utopian meritocratic state which annexes cultures, it seems okay to posit that the closer one is to the capital of the civilization, the less one needs to produce food to work, because there are all these younger vassal states that have to kind of earn their place in a meritocratic society to prove that they're worth being there and to prove that they're worth all the social benefits. So perhaps all of the food production happens on the periphery and is constantly, I say constantly, wars of conquest aren't quick, but that kind of, every time one is completed, the food source gets a bit further away from the center of the civilization, from the capital, I should say, not the center, not the geographical center, the political center. There we go. I worked it around, which is an unsustainable structure, because the further the food is from you, the longer it takes to get to you, the more chance there is that something bad happens to that food on the way. So, what if there was a famine? Not because crops were ill or nothing was growing, but because something happened to the supply routes. Not all of them, perhaps, but most of them. Something happened to those supply routes carrying the food from the very edge of the architect's empire, for want of a better word, to their capital. Not enough to cause the collapse of the society, because we know that happens when they try to perform this ritual and summon demons instead. Which, really, suddenly demons is the worst possible outcome for a magical spell, if you're not trying to summon a demon. Certainly not one where you're trying to connect with God. But it's still a pretty big disaster, and might drive the need to be unified with God, with Notrix. I like that, and that would never have come without Celtic Beast's suggestion, so thank you, Celtic. Incidentally, I am desperately trying not to call you by your actual name. I'm trying to stick with screen names for, obviously, anonymity purposes. Sorry if I slip up at any point. Okay, so food production always at edge. I guess you wouldn't, but it's just for my peace of mind. Obviously, I'm going to let people, dox you? I think that's the word. Always at edge of empire. Something in capitals happens to supply routes. Okay, so I'm going to be lazy and just roll for the something on the same table I've been using to generate all these events. A world shaking event. There we go. Pick up the relevant die. Roll it. 7. New organization. Well, it could be a worker / farmer class uprising. There are not it's very much a feeling of we're invading you for your own good, and we're going to make life better for you. So yeah, they probably do make life better for people, but not everyone wants to be invaded or is happy with being invaded. That Facebook notification made me jump. I really should close Facebook when I stream. Oh, well, that's my father. So totally viable to see a worker/farmer class uprising. No, I'm sorry. It was my Facebook. Hi, Kat. Long time no see. So I'm perfectly happy for it to be a worker/farmer class uprising. This is why I want to do collaborative stuff. Otherwise, I'm just. Oh, I know that pain. I know that pain so hard. Yeah, otherwise I just resort to rolling on table after table after table, whereas you guys know things I don't know. And can make these things way better than I could make on my own, which is why, obviously, I'm going to make all of this stuff available to you guys after it's finished. Or available to you folk after it's finished. So, worker/farmer class uprising. That works fine for me. Someone chose poorly. Thank you, NG_Alexander. Differing points of view indeed. Global points of view, in fact, because I know how global cultures differ to some extent. Not in great detail, but I know we all differ. Uprising. Oops. So, this brings me to... I can't remember if I said thank you. Thank you for the follow. Yes, this brings me to my next point, where I was planning on naming... Because these events are big enough to be notable, and they're not the only events that happen by any means, but they're the big events. So they need appropriate names. Worker/farmer uprising happens to supply routes. Hey, that's fine. So I'll run through the spiel at the end of this stream anyway. But so I stream these GM tips every Monday. If I don't have any in particular in mind, because for context, I DM my own game on Mondays in the evening, my time, GMT. So I do all my prep on stream so that if anyone has questions or isn't sure about something, they can ask. So if I need to do prep, I do prep. If I can't think of anything to do, I do this world building stuff just as a resource for people because I love building worlds and learning about new things like Bronze Age civilization collapse. Hello, Kiwi. Important question, bird or fruit? One of them is better than the other, unfortunately. I guess New Zealander would be an acceptable solution as well. No, you don't have to choose. I was just curious. Screen names fascinate me. Back to... I'm going to say Alexander. So I record these while I'm streaming and they all go up on YouTube afterwards. Just search for Behind the Screen or Comrade Bubbles and there's 22 episodes up there. Some of them are like last week's I think is in two parts because I changed topic halfway through, but I'm not sure if I separated them or not. Anyway, if you have questions, feel free to ask. I'm here as a resource. And you can quite happily think of yourself as a combination of all three. That is perfectly fine. Clearly, I'm not a humanoid mass of bubbles wearing like a friendly hat or something. But screen names that represent you are the best. No, I'm not. I'm actually 3 weasels in a trench coat. Cat, yes. Sucks when a character dies, but it feels great when kind of like it's that culmination of this was how it was always going to end, and the catharsis relating to following that through without backing out is great. And Alexander, that was the point of all of these. I realized there were a lot of GM tips where people just spoke at a camera like I'm doing right now and put relevant links down below and stuff like that, but never actually showed them in practice. So I wanted to show them in practice. Yep, I'll just grab that link for you right now. And anyone else who doesn't have it. I also do gameplay stuff other days, every other day of the week. But obviously you're under no obligation to watch that. That should be my channel, assuming I copied the right hyperlink. Oh man, emotional blackmail from character death. That's great. I'm in the Way of the Long Death Monks are the best. I'm in the position where my character is creating a network of contacts just because no one else is. So there's a really easy way for the demo to bring new characters in if I need to, if she dies. Hopefully she doesn't die though. But her backstory has not made people cry yet. It certainly made them question her suitability for the heroic quest that they're on. Yeah, pretty much. And being a changeling is just cool. I love changelings. I assume the Wayfinder guide to Eberron Changeling. Anyway, sorry, YouTube interactive with chat, which you can see because of the chat box stuff. But also, I'm trying to obviously divide attention. So I will keep interacting with chat, but obviously there is a topic. Oh, thank you, Kiwi, for, again, choosing poorly. Okay. So if it was like the home brewery or D&D wiki, I think. Oh, my characters are just bad choices dressed up as hot messes. It might be the one from the Wayfarer's Guide, but there is like an official changeling now, heavy air quotes, because Wayfarer's Guide is playtest material. Anyway, thank you again, Kiwi, for choosing so poorly. That puts me up to nearly 40, I think. Obviously, I appreciate the choice. Anyway, naming events and things. Also, for newcomers, I said this at the beginning of the stream, so if you watch it on YouTube, you'll hear all this again, but I do have mental health problems. Right now, I'm on an anxiety high, where I'm at the kind of the upside of anxiety, where I'm panicking rather than being irrationally angry at everything. So I'll be talking quickly and animatedly. Sorry if that's not your thing, but I want to help raise awareness of mental health problems, because got to get rid of that stigma. Yeah, if you want to shapeshift into winged medium creatures, you're probably better off being a druid. You could make an argument for a Kenku, maybe an Aarakocra at a stretch. But there we go. Yeah, I literally do nothing else on Monday afternoon. No, that's incorrect. I try and calm down before the game. I'm a nervous GM at the best of times. But I'm glad, and I'm glad that it's going to help someone. Oh, good. At least I was not expecting you hadn't thought of that. I just wanted, in case you hadn't, to raise that point. And obviously, Alexander specifically, but anyone who goes through my back catalogue of content, I'm obviously extremely interested to hear how it goes for you and how you use it. I should probably also shill my own website at this point. It is below in the channel, in like the panels below the video. But this is my website, where I do written content stuff. It started with an intro to role-playing series. I'll try and include these links in the YouTube description so people know what I'm on about. But essentially, a lot of the material on that I wrote certainly like the how to do stuff. It's all date stamped. A lot of the material on that is outdated now, for want of a better word, because I've just evolved and I think I'm a much better DM and player now. So the older articles on there, please do take with a pinch of salt. But there are also like design notes for new classes on there that I've released on the DM's Guild, and places with plot hooks and NPCs that you can just slot into your game world, things like that, which is really what I'm doing here, I guess. And any resource I can think of, I shove on there. If sometimes it's just like a 1,000-word piece of fiction about a character of my own that I want to write about and hope can serve as like inspiration for your own characters or plot hooks. I am starting to put up little bits of fiction about NPCs in my own game on there. So when I discuss them on the recap, I do at the start of every of these streams. There's some context possibly, and also just to flesh out my own game. You'll notice that some of the locations on there are I actually do need to rename them, but they are the locations that my players are visiting in my game, because I realized that I'd never put them up for my players to see, so they had no idea what was happening. So while I've been babbling, because this is a good GM tip actually, if you can't think of an appropriate response in the game, talk. Let your mind just work it over and just talk. So I've been using the prompts from chat. Obviously, I'm in I like talking to you guys. It's the whole point of doing this. But working on this problem in the back of my head. So oh, that's a great way of reading it. Yes, so a worker farmer uprising happening to a supply route. So what if it's a region of the region of the empire that has been, it's not a new convert, but it's not an old convert. It's about halfway between, say, the political center and the edge of the empire. And they're realizing that, hey, this greater good is not really the greater good for us. And we want to do something about that. We want to show our dissatisfaction with the way the society is going. We want some of what they have in the center. We don't want to be doing we don't want to be doing most of the manual labor. So it's kind of like a mini revolution in a way. But because of the way the civilization's set up, they're just workers. I realize that utopian here really does deserve those air quotes, the way that the civilization's turning out. So maybe a theme like that's not a hyphen. What? Dissatisfied. See, this isn't. Oh man, level 11 powers. Yeah, that's. They're really awkward because you've got to obviously be kind of like your world level now. You're a hero of no great renown, of no small renown. Sorry, but also you're just coming into your own. So I know that struggle. Who wrote this history? Well, for naming the event, that's certainly a thing to consider. But just like the basic details of all these events are the pure what actually happened. You know, You had me at just Shadow of Talion and Indy, but the clarification makes it even better. Oh yeah, it's a utopia according to the governing class. Totally. I don't think the word utopia could ever be truly really used by anyone but the governing class, because it just means something different to so many people. People just aren't made from the same cloth, cut from the same cloth. There you go. Dissatisfied citizens. Not recent. I'll put converts in air quotes, but not. Cat. That's just an undead state, really, isn't it? It's just like everyone's undead, but they're just getting along because the magic animating them lets them. Not recent converts, but old ones. Want more power / recognition. This empty room is a utopian room. To indulge in some self-pity. That's chat sometimes. But, it is what it is. I expect that being a small streamer, I'm not going to have people watching me every minute, every second of the stream. So, oh, well, yeah, I can see that. So just kind of a society that looks after itself because that is what it is magically programmed to do. Which is a great idea for a location for my world and its people idea. No. Yeah, the world and its people. I might run with that idea actually for when I write the next world and its people for my website. Anywho, I want more power recognition, and so prevent food being supplied. Idea catches on. Capital starves. That's not how you spell capital. See, Cat, the idea of this utopia is that everyone is one body. If I swap over to the other tab momentarily, you'll see that, here it is, Nostrix. No one's built like Gaston out of all of Gaston. So Nostrix loses her memory when she casts the first spell, and her knowledge kind of forms sapient life. And the whole idea of this civilization is that it ends when they cast a ritual to connect all sapient life in the universe so that the god they worship can have her knowledge back. So you're not entirely inaccurate. It's just one body split over many, many bodies. Capital staffs. That's perfectly fine, Alexander. If you have access to it, Celtic. If you have access to it, Xanathar's Guide to Everything has some good encounter building rules, and if you don't have access to it, was it Unearthed Arcana encounter building? There we go. That link will take you to pretty much the final encounter building rules from Xanathar's Guide, slightly like beta version-y. And it's really good for determining appropriate numbers of monsters and the appropriate combat rating, challenge rating. I always say combat rating. Appropriate challenge rating. Obviously, rewards outside of experience, entirely for you to decide. Of course someone's running Weeping Angels as D&D monsters. I have a stat block for Porgs. I have a stat block for Pickle Rick, for crying out loud. Hey, well, I don't personally have the stat block for Pickle Rick, but I know where to find it. I'll just go to the D&D group I play in, and it's there. The Porgs one is cute, though. Actually, I think the Porgs one comes with an adventure about Porgs. So this... I'll name the movement first. I'll obviously keep an eye on chat. This would probably be something, in the eyes of the affected parties, as, like, the glorious people's revolution of independence. No, they don't want independence. That is an important fact. Well, currently they don't. It's open to discussion. They don't want independence. They want recognition. I mean, I'm the only one that could ban him, but I don't want to, because he's good at puns. Glorious People's Revolution of Recognition. There we go. That actually rolls off the tongue quite well. Sorry, I just want to see if I have an appropriate emote. I mean, there's just that. Wait, what? Ah! Fine. Where did it go? There it is. There you go, flip a table. Anyway, so Glorious People's Revolution of Recognition. Yeah, there's a whole formula based on combat. It's supposed to be, what is it? You divide the player level by 5 if they're below level 5, or by 7 if they're above, I think. But yeah, there is a formula. That PDF that I linked to pretty much is all the information you ever need to know about doing it properly. That's the one I use. So this deserves to be in air quotes, because that's what they called it. Yeah, no worries. And time zones are always an issue, addressing the bit of the thing I've just noticed in chat. Obviously, I'm saying as that because it's chat's business more than mine, but time zones suck. Glorious People's Revolution of Recognition. Well, what would the architects call it? Well, it's probably not an inconvenience. It's definitely illegal. Insurrectionists, recidivists. Yes, please. I would definitely be interested in checking that out. Oh, I know what whip means, but also good puns. Puns. Hey, puns. Puns are like a solid 50% of my energy source. You could maybe have done like this, perhaps? Maybe? I don't know. Cheers. I'll check that out. Pond scum. We'll make a note of it. It is getting closer to the time where I want to start wrapping up, but not just yet, so I'll make a note of that. Okay, so pond scum. That seems derogatory for perhaps a country or people or a group of peoples who perhaps fish. Like, fish is their main export, or maybe they have like marshy, swampy terrain as the primary terrain of their country, which the food has to go through, but can only go along certain roads because of the general marshiness of the ground. Will do, Kat. Thanks. Apparently, the last time we spoke was November. Wow, that's a while ago. Okay, so we've got that idea. Mess rising to the surface. No, that's fine. I just couldn't remember. I didn't think it had been quite that long, if I'm being perfectly honest. I realise I'm addressing my chat box, but the camera's right there. If I had the camera on top of the monitor with the chat, that would make more sense when I buy a webcam. So another way to approach the problem: how did they deal with it? So Celtic's given the idea of general shite rising to the surface to be peeled away. This is a mature stream. I believe there should have been a button you had to click to get here. And this is obviously an expansionist meritocratic society that believes in spreading the greater good. So clearly there's going to be some standing military to ensure the greater good continues. So, how would they deal with this threat? Yeah, penal colonies indeed. It's the greater good. It's the greater good for everyone but you, unfortunately. We're taking you to somewhere where you can learn the error of your ways. If anyone can't tell, quite apart from the fact that I have a... Where's my hand gone? There we go. I have a map of Thedas next to my head. I love dark fantasy. Dark fantasy, sorry. That kind of elves and dwarves, but also mud everywhere approach. So anything I create usually has an underbelly to it. Muddy dwarves indeed. Like the city that my campaign started in. It's supposed to be a utopia. Geez, Kat, thank you for being here at 4 a.m. But you probably should try to go to bed. I do appreciate it, though. Yeah, it's designed to be a utopia. Thanks. Yeah, certainly see you around. Sleep well. Rest up. You're always welcome here whenever. I am planning on trying some evening streams at some point. It wouldn't be of D&D, though, but you're welcome to those if you want to check them out. Yeah, it's designed to be utopia because of the 3 functionally immortal beings running it for all intents and purposes, but there's still people in the poor areas who are cutting their ears to look like humans because they don't want to be bullied as half-elves, for example. So there's still always going to be a dark underbelly. So that's why this is going to go places that really don't seem it should. So penal colonies and things like that. And Kiwi probably do love dirty elves. I think a lot of people do. Actually, my first role-playing experience, non-sexual role-playing, tabletop, was a Warhammer Fantasy Second Ed game. It was just me and my friend, and he was running the game. And no, I was running the game, sorry. And his character tried to romance every elf in the bar. none of whom were into it because that wasn't the story I was trying to tell, which admittedly, I've grown since then and I'm probably allow it now, but there we go. That was a digression and a half. Pond scum, penal colonies. Maybe go for another 10 minutes or so. Player opted to abandon the quest and have a prepared plot that will trigger if they finish the quest. And killing him so the party members wouldn't be dragged with him. What would I have done? Yeah, Kiwi, I made a bard who originally was supposed to be asexual to get away from that kind of stereotype. Now she's in a lesbian relationship with a party druid, but that's an entirely different story. In that instance, one, you can always take a step back and address the player, like ask them why they wanted to do that. You can also ask the other members of the party, so the other players at the table, if they are happy to go along with that. So my general style of storytelling, which if you go through my material, you'll figure it out, but is that I don't have a set quest line. I write story beats that I can pretty much just put in anywhere. They're generic enough, mostly, until the players commit, that they can encounter them in any situation. So anything after that point where they abandon the quest, any of the important stuff, if you have it generic enough, the players will never know that you've moved it around the game world. I don't play with a screen or anything. I have the books. I have the rule book in front of me. I have my dice in front of me. I have a notebook to actually just make notes on what the players decide in front of me. If I need to make any detailed notes that I don't want the players to see, I'll write them on an index card and shove them in the notebook. And I keep maps out where people can see them, where they, would or reasonably have found the map, for example. And it's all just so that like my players see what I'm doing, and it's all just smoke and mirrors because they don't actually know that the encounter they've just had was supposed to be half a world away, but they decided to go left instead of right. 5th edition, I mean, a lot of role-playing games anyway, in general, is great because it gives you the framework to build encounters and plot lines on, but it's so flexible that you can build one encounter and put it in any situation, for example. So say like your players intimate that they're going on through the Arctic, through an Arctic tundra. So you write a quest line where they have to rescue like a villager from a blizzard, stumble across a yeti menacing a group of travelers, and then I don't know, somehow end up at a white dragon lair. There's 3 major plot points. Hello, God, is that you? With the villager potentially being an NPC companion and a source of local information. I might butcher your accent, but that would be God. No, I can't be bothered. I don't want to embarrass myself on the internet in front of 6 people. Yeah, Kiwi's name is Crosby. Rescuing the civilians gives them source of local information and is potentially a way of introducing local flora or fauna. Oh, Celtic, that's why we get on so well. And then obviously the dragon, the white dragon lair is just a boss fight. It could be a dungeon crawl followed by a boss fight. But if you reduce it to those 3 things of NPC contact, NPC resources, dungeon followed by boss fight, and even if you get all the appropriate stats together, it doesn't really matter because those are 3 general things you could put in any storyline anywhere. And a yeti I think it just does bludgeoning damage with its fists. I don't think it's any particular thing, but it probably has cold-related abilities, which you can reskin to fire if they're in a desert, or like it can animate plants nearby, as per the animate plant smell. Smell. Wizards have a smell list and a smell book. Why? Yeah, it's a very strong smell if it animates plants. That's how shambling mountains get created. They just want to get away. I suppose that the whole point of this digression, to answer your actual original question, I would have asked the players, if they were happy to continue with that player's actions and just call for a short break while you figure out what to do next. There was a thing I saw on Twitter recently. It was like me DMing my first session. I've got half a notebook of notes. I'm ready to go. I know exactly what's going to happen at all times. And then me after my 14th session, I have no plan, and I fully intend to read this quarter-page notes 5 minutes into the session, because that's really what happens. No plot survives contact with the players, to paraphrase that oldest of military sayings. And if you ever are wrong-footed, don't be afraid just to ask for time. Like my players love it when they wrong-foot me. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen occasionally, because it means that they've thrown me such a curveball I just can't respond in time. Other than that, just find out resources for training improvisation techniques. Like the most common one being yes and. Never say no to a player. Say yes if it's reasonable that they can do the thing they're asking to do. But then have a complication ready is the whole point of yes and in a role-playing context. If you struggle with ideas like that, there's Rory's story cubes, which are just six-sided dice. There's 9 in a box. They come in a variety of expansions, but the base box is 9 six-sided cubes, as all cubes are, with different symbols, different pictures on the faces. Or the Storyforge cards, which are like tarot-sized cards, with they're primarily writing prompts, but like character archetypes or things that crop up or themes, and then they're usually they've got a positive aspect and a negative aspect at either end of the face of the card. They're a good resource I use occasionally for if I'm trying to plot something and I get stuck. I'll just kind of draw one at random and see what that says. I hope that answered the question in a long, roundabout manner. Anyway, I want to get the name down for this uprising before wrapping up. Ponscombe, Glorious People's Revolution of Recognition. And just to clarify, I have about 50 minutes before I absolutely have to go, but I do need to get this on YouTube at some point soon, and obviously get my head in the game for leaving, because I eat with my partner beforehand and stuff like that. So, but I'm loving you guys being here. Don't want you to feel unwelcome, and I'm happy to answer any more questions you might have. I don't hate anyone. Hate is too strong a word. Well, I mean, I think you chose poorly by being here, as you saw. I loathe myself. I think you guys you folk could spend your time better, perhaps. Oh, I know I shouldn't, but anxiety is irrational. Thanks, I appreciate it. I do. I do struggle with self-image. He wanted to swim through the sea to get away from monsters. Can't say no because he can do that. Oh, jeez. Okay, that sounds more like one, the dice wanted him dead. Well, in that instance, and I don't mind doing this now because of the chat box thing. Initial reactions there, kind of ask why I wanted to debate you, because there might be an underlying reason. 2, something very similar happened in my game, which I think I've mentioned before on stream to people who've been here before, which is none of you apart from Celtic. I don't think he was around for this story. So one of my actual friends joined the game I run at the cafe, which is the one I'm running later. I run in a cafe, so we have limits on what we can and can't do, obviously. But my friend and my partner joined like a session apart, and he rolled up a gnome who can't swim, 300-year-old gnome warlock. So athletics isn't his thing. Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad. I do stream every day about the same time if you are free other days. The video panels on my Twitch channel have the schedule, but it's video game stuff apart from Mondays. And he was just the player plays enthusiastic characters all the time, and by which I mean just march straight forth into danger without a second thought. It didn't work well for his paladin, so I don't know why I thought it would work well for his warlock. But he got into a situation where he triggered a spinning blade trap underwater and was being sucked towards the blades because he couldn't swim to get away from them. Players weren't doing anything. So in that instance, don't be afraid to step in and say, look, he's going to die if you don't help. Obviously, the players may have a reason not to help, but that's how I dealt with that almost exact situation. Replace monsters with traps and you're pretty much there. Another similar situation, actually. I run D&D events for kids, and if anyone is interested, I could potentially do one of these streams about running D&D games for kids. And one of those kids, he decided that when the combat broke out, he was going to leg it back to the wagons that they were being paid to protect and steal the gold. I allowed it. One, it was just a one shot, so it didn't really matter as much. But two, I'm confident enough in my ability to write story on the fly, so to speak, that allowing things like that could provide setup for future things happening. I'm making the basic assumption that everyone here has at least some interest in tabletop role-playing, being as that is the explicit and obvious purpose of this stream. I'm hoping that some of you are GMs and DMs, or have an interest in doing so. So I'd appreciate your opinion on this image. I don't know if it's made it across the sea, but in the UK, maybe in Ireland, I don't know. There's a old program called Wallace and Gromit. It was like 3 shortish, almost feature-length films, animations, and in one of them, Gromit, who's a dog, is riding an electric train, like a toy train set, and is trying to catch a penguin. It makes sense in context. Cool. Excellent. Someone knows what I'm on about. And he's frantically laying down track in front of the train to keep it on course, to keep it going where he wants it to go. And that is really what, certainly if you follow my style of GMing is all about. Like, yes, the wrong trousers, indeed. I was trying to remember if it was the wrong trousers yesterday, and my partner was no help because she couldn't really remember watching them, so that's a problem. With the GM's not the GM isn't the track by any stretch. Like, some people prefer that, and that's fine. Like, different strokes for different folks. Yeah, it is a problem. I must do so. I don't like guided plays. I called it in one of my older streams. I'd like the players to be able to choose what they're doing so that they're actually invested in the game. So I definitely take it with the view of GMs there, just to lay the story maybe a scene or two ahead of the players. I have big story beats that I know that they're going to get to, but they're generic enough that I can move them around the game world, or I can like seed quests that I'm reasonably confident the players will pick up on, and if they don't, then I can alter certain details to make things fit. So that's that. That's by the by. Incidentally, if you haven't seen that GIF, I don't know where you'd search for. Like maybe Grommet train track. I don't know. If you haven't seen Wallace and Gromit in general, you should probably try see if you can somehow. They might be on iPlayer for various countries. I don't know. On DVD at this point, anyway. Anyway, Glorious People's Revolution of Recognition, Pond Scum, Marshes, Swamps, Draining the Swamp. No, that's too topical. Actually, to be fair, I could just like search for it now. I get very sidetracked, you might be able to tell. This works. Just check that's the right link. There we go. That works well enough. The whole scene is just a great metaphor for role-playing. It's an incredible scene. Anyway, I'm a big fan of animated works, and Nick Park does some great stuff with claymation. But that's the one of the gifts that taken from that scene. And actually, I suppose I don't have to put them in the description on YouTube because you can see them in the chat box. But I still might, if I remember. Anyway, pond scum, swamps, marsh, mangrove. Exports will be fish, maybe certain woods. Just trying to think of any failed revolutions in the real world that have names. I only tend to remember the ones that succeed. And the ones that don't are just like the riots. Right, okay. Right, so if I roll 2d10, we'll get a rough time scale. So 9 years. So this was a 9-year thing. So it's not a quick thing. So it's definitely going to have some lasting impact in terms of my name. Obviously, a 9-year drought, a 9-year famine isn't. It's not going to be the famine of the whole 9 years. But it's probably going to equate to a war of pacification. It is a long-ass rebellion, you're correct. But also, it might be that kind of the idea springs up and is squashed, but then it springs up elsewhere in the Empire. And that whole 9-year period is just... They're trying to kill the idea more than anything. Yeah, you could totally call that a civil war. No, I wouldn't say that's too far. The Halibut Wars. So I'm gonna like hold my hands way up. This whole time period is heavily inspired by the Romans. So let's think of some maybe they're a bad place to be. Puns. Maybe some fake Latin to name the province, the district that this originated in. Or I could just look at actual Roman place names of Britain. That makes more sense to me. I'll move that there so I can see chat still. Roman place names. List of Roman place names in Britain. Britannia Inferior. I like Pisci. I believe that Latin has a hard C. I wonder if there are any suitable suffixes. I think Pons is bridge. Piss guy becomes Pisci. It's just fishes. Strategies for constructing Latin names. Oh, I always thought the double I was just an E. I could obviously be wrong though. I'm not a Latin scholar, and it's also a dead language. I do have friends who know Latin. I guess surprising absolutely no one, but hang on. Let's do some good old fantasy mangling of words. So this is going to be sharing some personal information in a way. I grew up near a place, one word of its name was Eton, which is a low, roughly translated possibly to low-lying land. Not from Latin, but there we go. Which ties in with the idea of swamps and pond scum. So, Pisceton, maybe? Spelt that way? I don't know. Which gives us a P sound to deal with. What's Puskinti? I don't actually know what that is, so that's a coincidence. Oh, of course, it's the silliest way to say spaghetti. I don't know what I was thinking. That's fine. Honestly, it's fine. The Pisceton problem, I guess, maybe not really got the gravitas that something like this should probably have. Uprising. How about this? So, Pisceton problem, kind of like records of the time, official communications / Pisceton uprising, which then grew into a civil war. Well, Trouble still is used as a real name, unfortunately, and people keep denying that there were problems. So. Piscine Uprising, kind of known as later. And something to be determined, going forwards is to what extent each of these events is known in later time periods. So they're all big enough that certainly the time period immediately after them will probably have some history of them. But with the complete civilization reset after each one, so demonic invasion, playing a gate from Acheron, destroying everything, and then the power vacuum obviously lends itself to civil anarchy. Records are going to get lost, oral traditions are going to suffer, that kind of thing. But there we go. So if I get rid of pun scum, and then Pisketon, a middling province famed for fish production and I don't know, like mangrove wood. I just like mangrove swamps. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I like fitting them in anywhere and everywhere I get the opportunity. Mangrove wood. Rose up against. I'll just put architect forces for now. And inspired a 9-year rebellion by rose up against architect's forces, prevented food from reaching the capital, and capsule, and double and. You've got to get that double and in there if you're going to go for the Holy Trinity. I hate typing on stream. It's so stressful because I'm going to make mistakes. And inspired a 9-year rebellion. So get rid of that. Just create my own shorthand. I can do that if you want. It's just that. That makes perfect sense to me. If you can't read it, clearly you are an idiot. I'm the idiot. I hurt myself doing that. How? I caught my nail on on the plastic between keys. Anyway, back up to here. So we've got can delete this. Capital D for now. Midland province from fish production, mangrove wood, rose up against architects' forces, prevented food from its capital, inspired a 9-year rebellion in a move calculated to gain more power in society. There we go. Because obviously it's a meritocracy, so you get what you prove you deserve, etc., etc. So I think that's good for today. 2 hours, 8 minutes. So about 2 hours with minus the 8-hour rant I went on before I recorded for YouTube. Huge thanks to Alexander and Kiwi for following this stream. I will include links for my YouTube channel. I won't include a link for my YouTube channel in the YouTube description because that seems kind of redundant. But I will include a link for my website. And if you want any of the other links that I've shared in chat, obviously the chat box is there so you can hopefully see. I can believe that because I was 100% going to and then realized, no, wait, what's the point? but for so as I say, thanks to Kiwi and Alexander for the follow. I hope that you come back. If not, you're dead to me. No, you're not. It's your time. Spend it how you will. I am grateful for any and all time that you spend here. I do want to build a community, hopefully an inclusive one. Komodo hype is still the best emote I have seen on Twitch, which is weird because I don't know. Komodos are great, like horrible carrion eaters, but pretty great. I do like seeing them at the zoo. Yeah, so this, if you want to join that community, you're watching this on YouTube, please do swing by Twitch at some point. It's the same channel name, Comrade Bubbles. I tweet on Twitter, Comrade Bubbles again when I'm going live, and also just occasional retweets of stuff that might be interesting, I guess. No worries. Like, this is what I want to do. So, obviously, I'm just fortunate that my partner can support us both while I try. And again, a large part of my life is kind of not directed or determined, but involved with mental health problems. Anxiety is just the tip of the iceberg, as it is with most people. It is going to crop up on stream. It is going to make it into my videos. I'm sorry if that's not your thing, but it needs to be visible. I see. I did wonder, but I didn't want to put my foot in my extremely large mouth. So I guess you could be undead. I appreciate it, Kiwi. Like, just hanging out with you in chat, with people in chat, not you specifically, although, that works for me. It does help having like the community support helps, which is why I roleplay, which is why I encourage other people to roleplay and stuff like that. It's a two-way street when building a community, and not many people really, I think, acknowledge the impact that a community can have on a content creator, and I want to do that as well. Yes, I am also, while we're on the subject, because it hasn't cropped up in a YouTube video yet, I am disabled. I have a neurological disorder which causes muscle spasming. It has happened on stream a few times, but not while I was recording for YouTube. So I guess this is YouTube. This is your warning if it happens. I know it's disquieting for some people to see, but it happens. And again, it's all about visibility and stuff. Anyway, I'm going to end the YouTube recording. YouTube, thank you for watching. As I say, if you want to partake in the discussion, please do swing by Twitch at some point, twitch.tv/ComradeBubbles. Links in the description. That one I can guarantee. Until next time, see you.